Hey, you. You're finally awake.
The PlayStation 1 was a landmark console that helped redefine the JRPG genre. While games like Final Fantasy VII, Chrono Cross and Xenogears grabbed all the headlines, there were many other role-playing games that were just simply overlooked. These hidden treasures brought unique mechanics, powerful storytelling and artistic innovation, but never received the spotlight they deserved. In today's video, we're diving deep into 7 of the most underrated JRPGs for the PlayStation 1. As we always say with these things, this is just some I've picked, and you probably heard some of these before, but I want to hear in the comments what you think are underrated gems I need to be talking about. Before we go into the list, if you think I deserve it, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content. It really helps with the channel's growth. If you want to hear more of me, we've got a weekly podcast where this week we're covering Phantasy Star for the Master System, and we've got a $1 a month Patreon where you can get involved with the Smut Squad and get your own additional show. Let's get into it, shall we? 7 of the most underrated JRPGs for the PlayStation 1. Vagrant Story. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking, oh yeah, we know about Vagrant Story. Well, yes, we do know about Vagrant Story, but do you ever hear it getting shouted from the rooftops that we need to have it released on every single console or we need a remaster and remake? No! Which, like other games like Final Fantasy Tactics just recently getting a remaster, why can't we have this have a remaster? So that's why I think it's underrated. Now, Vagrant Story, released by Squaresoft in 2000, is one of the most artistically bold and mechanically complex RPGs of its generation. It eschews typical RPG conventions like towns, shops, and experience points in favour of immersive dungeon crawling, a heavy weapon customization system, and a dark, psychologically driven story. The game follows Ashley Riot, a risk-breaker, a type of elite secret agent, tasked with infiltrating the ruined city of Leomond to investigate a mysterious cult leader named Sydney Lost Herot. But the narrative quickly deepens into a story of betrayal, inner trauma, and metaphysical manipulation. Ashley's past is ambiguous, and his sanity is repeatedly called into question, creating a dreamlike narrative that blurs the line between reality and memory. Combat in Vagrant Story isn't like anything else on the PlayStation. It mixes real-time movement with tactical sphere of influence system, allowing players to target specific enemy body parts. There's also a risk meter that makes you increasingly vulnerable the more you attack. This encourages thoughtful, paced battles. It's dense and challenging, but incredibly rewarding once mastered. Players must forge and combine swords, axes, and maces, modifying their stats for certain enemy types. The system is deep, possibly overwhelming to new players, but it offers an unmatched sense of control and progression. Instead of gaining levels, your knowledge of systems and your weapon crafting mastery become your tools for survival. Graphically, Vagrant Story is stunning, and I remember watching this as a kid when my cousin had it and I said I need to borrow this / steal it right now. I borrowed it, don't worry. With its gothic art style, rich use of shadow, and fully 3D world rendered without pre-rendered backgrounds, it pushed the PlayStation to its limit. The cinematography is highly theatrical, using dramatic angles and lighting to elevate the storytelling to something more akin to a stage production rather than a video game. The music is moody and minimalist, heightening the tension and tragedy of the narrative. Every track is meticulously crafted to blend in the emotional currents of each scene, adding to the immersive atmosphere. Vagrant Story was a commercial underperformer, especially in the West. I didn't know anyone else who knew it, apart from my cousin. Its steep learning curve, unconventional mechanics, and lack of accessibility made it a hard sell to casual RPG fans accustomed to more traditional titles. Yet for those who invested the time, it offered a singular, unforgettable experience. Over the years, Vagrant Story has become a cult favourite, and we would love Square Enix to actually make a sequel or a remaster, but none of you are doing it, because you decided to make Final Fantasy Tactics, which is again, a good game, but I want to see Vagrant Story. Its legacy lives on through references in Final Fantasy XII and Tactics, because they're in the same world. Yeah, now you know. But no game has ever truly replicated what Vagrant Story achieved. It's a dark, cerebral RPG masterpiece that dared to be different, and its lack of mainstream success only adds to its mystic status. Alundra. Alundra released in 1997 by Matrix Software and was published by Working Designs. Its 2D action RPG has often been unfairly dismissed as a Zelda clone because that's quite easy to do. But in truth, it's a deep, emotional, puzzle-heavy adventure that tackles themes of grief, death, and the subconscious in ways that were shockingly mature for its time. You play as Alundra, a dream walker who washes ashore in the cursed village of Anoa. The villagers are being tormented by deadly nightmares, and Alundra is the only one who can enter their minds and attempt to save them. But unlike most games of the era, you don't always win. Villagers die, relationships collapse, and hope fades. The emotional toll is real. Because he's obviously not been there for those situations where couples are waking up saying, "You were mean to me in a dream," and then they break up, so that's all your fault, Alundra, for not being there in time. Gameplay consists of top-down exploration, dungeon crawling and puzzle solving. The puzzles in Alundra are some of the most intricate and rewarding in any action RPG, often spanning multiple rooms with complex switches, timed events and clever spatial logic. Each dungeon feels handcrafted, and completing them is deeply satisfying. Combat, however, while simpler, is responsive and brutal. Enemies are fast, hit hard and require good reflexes. You gain different weapons and magic as the game progresses, each with specific uses for combat or puzzle interaction. It's a perfect blend of brains and action. I haven't got any of those, unfortunately. Dream sequences form the heart of the narrative and are the most surreal parts of the game. Each one explores the subconscious fears and traumas of individual villagers. These dreams are visually distinct and conceptually rich, offering glimpses into the fractured psyches and tragic memories. It's like entering a nightmare vision of Inception rendered in 16-bit art. Visually, Alundra is a triumph of sprite design. The village of Anoa feels alive, with villagers that react to events, a changing environment, and expressive animations. Even more impressive is how the dream dungeons use surreal visual clues and architecture to create psychological depth. The soundtrack is a blend of whimsical village tunes and somber melodies. The music elevates the storytelling and creates emotional resonance, especially during the game's tragic moments. Like, come on, some of the best music come from RPGs. Alundra was well received critically, but it didn't sell in huge numbers. Many players found its difficulty intimidating, especially in the era where RPGs were shifting towards accessibility and 3D graphics. It was also poorly timed, landing in the shadow of other, flashier titles. The sequel, Alundra 2, completely abandoned the original styles and themes, becoming a generic 3D platformer. Fans were deeply disappointed and the series vanished soon after. This only added to the original game's cult status. Today, Alundra is celebrated as one of the finest 2D action RPGs ever made. It's a masterclass in game design and storytelling that isn't afraid to challenge the player emotionally and intellectually. Few games of the era still resonate so deeply. Brigandine, The Legend of Forsena. Brigandine, The Legend of Forsena is a 1998 tactical RPG developed by Hearty Robin and published by Atlas. It combines grand strategy, fantasy warfare, and RPG progression into a unique continent-spanning experience that remains unmatched in its genre. You begin by choosing one of the 6 nations vying for control of the continent of Forsena. Each has its own story, leaders, political motivations, and rune knights. It doesn't matter which nation you want to control, your goal is simply to conquer all opposing castles and unify the nation. The game split its gameplay into 2 phases. The organisation phase, where you summon monsters, assign rune knights, and plan troop movements, and the battle phase is where you engage in tactical hex-based battles on a lush terrain maps. It's like Fire Emblem meets Risk with a sprinkle of Dragon Force. Rune knights serve as your generals, and they each command squads of monsters. These monsters can level up, evolve into new forms, and can be fused to create stronger units. Managing your troop is key to success, and permadeath, we all love that, adds genuine stakes to each decision. Combat involves elemental affinities, positioning, and synergy between units. Some monsters are strong on mountains but weak in water, others can fly, while some cast devastating area of effect spells. Each battle is like a miniature war game with dozens of variables, so if you like Warhammer, this is probably up your alley. Graphically, the game uses simple but effective sprite-based visuals for battles, and hand-drawn art for character portraits. The aesthetic is old school, but the charm is undeniable, and each nation has their own distinct look and feel that reflects its ideology and lore. The soundtrack is grandiose, and that's a big word for me, filled with sweeping orchestral pieces that make your battles feel epic. Combined with the narrative text and war room drama, it creates a compelling high fantasy atmosphere. Brigandine didn't perform well in the West at all. Its niche appeal, minimal marketing, and lack of production flash meant it was quickly overlooked. Strategy games were a harder sell in North America at the time, especially ones this dense. However, it has earned a loyal cult following. Fans appreciated its massive scope, replay value, and deep mechanics. It was the kind of game you could play for hundreds of hours, mastering each faction and testing new strategies. Decades later, it finally received a sequel, Brigandine: The Legend of Runecia, released on modern platforms. This follow-up proved that the original game had a lasting impression. And for those who love political drama, fantasy world building, and strategic warfare, Brigandine remains a hidden masterpiece. Vandal Hearts. Konami's Vandal Hearts released in 1997 and is often cited by genre fans as one of the most accessible yet underappreciated tactical JRPGs of the PlayStation era. Arriving on the PlayStation before the juggernaut of Final Fantasy Tactics, it helped pioneer grid-based strategy RPGs on the console. While its mechanics were elegantly streamlined and its story full of twists, it sadly fell into obscurity due to its stiff competition and lack of marketing muscle. Yet make no mistake, this is a foundational title that deserves recognition. Set in a war-torn kingdom, the narrative follows Ash Lambert, a loyal soldier drawn into a conspiracy involving corrupt nobles, ancient prophecies, and an enigmatic flame champion. At the first glance, the story seems quite straightforward, a fight between the rebels and the Empire. But Vandal Heart definitely introduces morally grey characters and shifting alliances. The deeper Ash digs, the more he questions the motivations of his allies and superiors, culminating in a powerful commentary on the cost of war. What makes Vandal Hearts truly special is its razor-sharp gameplay. It is skewed to bloat in favour of fast tactical missions that move at a brisk pace. Players command a party of diverse units, archers, knights, healers and mages, each with defined roles. Enemy AI is aggressive and smart, encouraging strategic placement, flanking and terrain usage. Battles often feature unique objectives beyond simple victory, including rescuing NPCs, activating switches, or surviving overwhelming odds. The class system is flexible, yet complex. Each character begins in a basic class and eventually branches into one of two advanced jobs, like turning a swordsman into a champion or a fencing-style duelist. This introduces replayability and allows players to customize their team. There's also an interesting layer of progression in terms of how you distribute your forces. One mission may call for more mages, whereas another may require mobile units like flyers or scouts. Graphically, Vandal Hearts uses an isometric grid system with 2D sprites over basic 3D environments. Now, while not technically impressive compared to its later peers, the visual clarity makes it easy to read the battlefield. More importantly, the character portraits, spell animations, and map diversity help each encounter visually distinct. The game's dramatic flair comes not from the polygon count, but from how it stages its battles like theatrical set pieces. One thing that does stand out is the infamous blood geysers. Whenever an enemy is defeated, they explode into an over-the-top foundation of pixelated gore. It's comically exaggerated, but it adds that visceral satisfaction into combat. This was likely included to give the game a unique identity, and even now it remains one of the most iconic features. Like, look at Mortal Kombat, a bit of blood there, you'll love it. The soundtrack delivered a dramatic orchestral score filled with tension, sorrow and triumph. While not as known as some of the other RPG soundtracks, like Final Fantasy ones for example, it does a great job of conveying the gravity of the story and intensity of the conflicts. Critics praised Vandal Hearts for its depth and accessibility. It didn't require grinding or micromanagement to enjoy, and its tightly based battles meant it avoided the slow crawl that plagued other strategy RPGs. However, the game's relatively short length, roughly 15 to 20 hours, and the lack of polish in its graphics led some reviewers to see it as lightweight, especially when compared to more cinematic contemporaries. A sequel, Vandal Hearts 2, followed in 1999, but disappointed many fans with its confusing dual combat system and weaker story. Despite that, the original has endured in the hearts of those who played it. It carved out a niche for players who wanted quick tactical action without sacrificing narrative stakes. Today, Vandal Hearts is fondly remembered as a pioneer. It may lack the flash of Final Fantasy Tactics, but it delivers strategy, story, and heart in equal measure. It's perfect for newcomers to the genre and veterans who want something focused and rewarding. And to be honest, I'm happy to play a 15 to 20 hour game nowadays. I barely have time to game. Yeah, so give me 15 to 20 hours over a 50 hour, 100 hour beast. I'll be happy with that. Legend of Legaia. Released in 1999, Legend of Legaia was a late-era PS1 RPG that tried to innovate at a time when the genre was becoming saturated. Developed by Contrail and published by Sony Computer Entertainment, this traditional turn-based RPG stood out for one key reason: its unique tactical art system, a combat mechanic that gave players martial arts-inspired way to attack rather than simply selecting fight from a menu. The story begins in the world devastated by a toxic mist that drives animals, humans, and magical beings known as the Seru into madness. The protagonist Vaughn, along with Noah and Gala, becomes bonded with Rasaru, benevolent versions of Saru, to combat the mist and restore balance by receiving ancient Genesis trees. It sounds simple, but Legaia layers this premise with emotional story arcs, personal growth, and themes of environmentalism, loss, and redemption. The tactical art system is where Legaia shines. Instead of the standard attacks, players input a combination of directional commands, left, right, up, down, to perform powerful martial arts known as moves. It's not like Street Fighter-esque, but it's still quite cool. Discovering new combos adds a puzzle element to battles, rewarding experimentation. It's kinetic and interactive, turning combat into an evolving minigame. This system was far more engaging than most turn-based RPGs at the time. Adding to the strategic layer are the Seru monsters. Much like summons in Final Fantasy, you can catch your enemy Seru and equip them as magic spells. Some cast powerful elemental attacks, others heal or buff. These Seru level up independently, and choosing which ones to equip adds depth to team building. And the combination of physical arts and magical Seru spells makes battles incredibly dynamic. Visually, Legend of Legaia mixes pre-rendered backgrounds with polygonal characters, a common style for late PS1 titles. The environments are vibrant and distinct, from snow-covered villages to desolate ruins covered in mist. Character designs are memorable, especially the expressive Noah and stoic Gala, each with their own arcs and motivations. While the visuals don't reach the heights of Final Fantasy IX, they have aged surprisingly well thanks to their strong art direction. The soundtrack adds emotional depth and atmosphere. The village themes are confronting, while the battle and dungeon music builds urgency and tension. Tracks like The Mist and Nightmare Castle underscore the darker tone of the story. However, despite that, its soundtrack has never get the recognition compared to other ones on the PS1. Reception at launch was positive but muted. Critics praised the combat system and found the story compelling, but many felt it lacked polish compared to the genre's juggernauts. It sold mostly well, but was quickly overshadowed by the arrival of Final Fantasy VIII and Grandia. Without a strong marketing push, it failed to break out into the mainstream. There was a follow-up, Legaia 2 Dual Saga, which released to the PS2, but it changed much of what made the original unique and lacked the same magic. As a result, it failed to reignite interest in the franchise, and no further games were made. Today, Legend of Legaia is remembered fondly by fans who admire its innovative combat, heartfelt story, and willingness to break away from genre norms. It's a game that rewards patience and experimentation, and for many it remains one of the most memorable RPGs of the PlayStation era. Brave Fencer Musashi. Brave Fencer Musashi, released in 1998 by Squaresoft, is a zany, fast-paced action RPG that combined humour, real-time combat, and light platforming with a surprisingly deep and heartfelt story. Developed during the peak of Squaresoft's creative output, it stood in stark contrast to the company's more serious RPGs, offering a colourful, anime-inspired romp full of personality. You play as Musashi, a brash, sword-wielding warrior summoned to the Alakanite Kingdom to defeat the Thirst Quencher Empire. It's a great name. The premise is tongue-in-cheek from the start. The character names are food puns, the villainous empire wants to steal a legendary sword called Alundra, and Musashi has zero interest in saving anyone unless there's a reward. I like this man. But beneath the quirky surface lies a surprisingly poignant coming-of-age story about responsibility and sacrifice. Gameplay is a mix of real-time combat, puzzle solving, and light RPG mechanics. Musashi gains two swords, Fusion, which can absorb enemy abilities like Mega Man, and Lumina, which gains elemental upgrades as the game progresses. These abilities allow you to solve puzzles, defeat elemental bosses, and navigate the world more efficiently. The combat is fast, satisfying, and packed with personality. The world of All You Can Eat, I've just got it now, All You Can Eat, is structured around a central town that evolves over time. You rescue kidnapped villagers from dungeons, and in doing so unlocks new shops, side quests, and story beats. There's a real sense of progression and community building, and NPCs often have fully voiced dialogue and changing routines. One innovative mechanic is the fatigue and sleep system. Musashi gets tired over time and must rest or sleep to regain strength. It adds a simulation element that makes exploration feel more grounded and adds tension to dungeon runs. There's even a day-night cycle that affects enemy behaviour and certain side quests. Visually, the game uses stylized 3D graphics that were impressive for the time. Character animations are exaggerated and expressive, giving the game a cartoon-like charm. Cutscenes are fully voiced, a rarity for the era, and while the acting is campy, it fits the game's tone perfectly. The soundtrack is energetic and varied, shifting from electric guitars during boss battles to peaceful, almost whimsical town themes. The music enhances the playful tone and makes every area memorable. Combined with the game's bright visuals and witty dialogue, the atmosphere is irresistible. Critics praise Brave Fencer Musashi for its charm, pacing, and originality. However, it didn't receive the same marketing push as Final Fantasy titles and was often dismissed as a side project, and its lighter tone may have led hardcore RPG fans to overlook it. A spiritual successor, Samurai Legend Musashi, was released for the PS2, but it lacked the humour and creativity of the original. As a result, Brave Fencer Musashi remains a one-off gem, a game that captured lightning in a bottle and then disappeared. Over the years, its reputation has grown, and fans now recognise it as one of the most entertaining and innovative action RPGs on the PlayStation. With the right remaster, it could easily win over a new generation. Until then, it's a joyful, chaotic classic that deserves a place among the best. And finally, Azure Dreams. Konami's Azure Dreams released in 1998 and is perhaps the most unique and genre-defining game on this list. It's part roguelike, part monster collection RPG, and part town-building dating sim. Yeah. It's an ambitious blend of gameplay styles that makes it hard to categorize, but easy to love it once it clicks. The story centers on Koa, or whatever you want to call yourself, a young boy living in the desert town of Montspire. His father, Guy, was a legendary monster tamer who disappeared in the mysterious monster tower. On his 15th birthday, Koa is finally old enough to enter the tower himself to uncover his father's fate, and to make a name for himself. From there, the game opens up into a world of exploration, relationships, and rebuilding a life from scratch. The tower is procedurally generated, with each floor becoming harder and more complex. Koa starts at level 1 every time he enters, meaning permanent progression comes from training monsters, collecting rare items, and improving your equipment. It's a punishing system but deeply satisfying, rewarding preparation, risk-taking, and clever retreating. You can tame and raise monsters, each with their own skills and evolutionary paths. These creatures then become your allies in combat and can be fused together to create stronger hybrids. This system is more in common with Pokemon or Shin Megami Tensei than traditional JRPGs, and mastering monster training is key to surviving the upper floors. Outside the tower, the game shifts into a life sim. You invest money earned in the tower to rebuild Monspire, adding new shops, a casino, a theatre, even improving homes. Koa can also date various girls around each town, each with their own personality, story arc, and relationship challenges. And honestly, I don't have time for that for relationship challenges. I have enough with my own family, I don't want more. This is surprisingly deep and adds a layer of relaxing rhythm between high-stakes dungeon crawls. Although I wouldn't really call it relaxing if I'm trying to deal with another relationship. The dual gameplay loop, tower and town, is what makes Azure Dreams so compelling. You never feel like you're grinding for no reason. Every trip into the tower can yield new treasures, new monsters, or story events that affect the town. Conversely, every improvement you make in the town helps you prepare for deeper tower climbs. Graphically, the game uses vibrant 2D sprites and colourful isometric tiles. The tower may be repetitive, but this is made up by the bustling life and personality of the town. The character art and monster designs are distinct and charming, helping sell the game's quirky yet heartfelt tone. The soundtrack is also upbeat and playful, contrasting nicely with the dungeon's danger. There are romantic melodies for the dating scenes, Arabian-inspired music for the desert settings, and eerie atmospheric tones for the tower itself. The music, although not widely known, is integral to the game's pacing and mood. Critically, Azure Dreams was divisive. Some found the mechanics disjointed or too punishing, especially the roguelike elements, but others hailed its originality and charm. Over the years, it's developed a dedicated fanbase that praises it as one of the most unique RPGs in the PlayStation. With no real successor and only a pared-down Game Boy Color version, Azure Dreams remains a one-of-a-kind experience. It definitely deserves a remake that retains its genre-blending heart. Until then, it's a cult classic well worth discovering and a perfect capstone to our list. And that's it, 7 underrated JRPGs for the PlayStation 1. Let me know what you think and let me know if there's others I should be talking about. Until then, I'll see you all again in 3 days for another video. And I said at the beginning, if you really think I deserve it, please hit that like and subscribe button. My name's been Danny, I'll see you all then. Take care, bye bye.